this day in 1984, commercial peat cutters discover the preserved bog body of a man called Lindau Man at Lindau Moss, Cheshire, northwest England. A worker in a peat bog in Lindau Moss on the edge of Wilmslow in Cheshire, England, a chap called Andy Mould, monitoring the elevator of a peat shredding machine there, picked up what he took to be a piece of wood from the elevator and playfully chucked the thing at his workmate, Eddie Slack. When the thing bounced off poor Eddie's chest and hit the ground, the peat dropped off and the object was revealed to be a human foot. Naturally, the two workers were alarmed, and after a bit of colorful language, they called the cops. Authorities, including the county archaeologist, are brought in, and soon the rest of the body is found. The discovery, Lindau Man, an ancient, though extraordinarily well-preserved dead one. Considered to be a significant discovery, Lindau Man is determined to be a healthy male in his mid-20s, thought to be perhaps someone of high status, as the body shows little evidence of having engaged in any sort of strenuous work or exercise. Remarkably, forensic investigation of Lindau Man details the manner of his death. Violent. They know that his last meal was a slice of burnt toast, after which Lindau Man is strangled, hit on the head, his throat cut, and then into the bog for more than 2,000 years. We continue to be fascinated by dead ones, and by we, the meaning is you, judging by your choice of television programming. We know this about dead ones: if they were reanimated, they'd be extremely hungry. Lindau Man is a perfect example. If all you'd had to eat for 2,000 years is a slice of burnt toast, doubtless, man, you'd be hungry too. The other thing we think we know is that if dead ones were to be revived, they'd probably not be vegan. Funny story, a year before the discovery of Lindau Man, Andy Mould and a couple of other chaps found a head in there. Working in a peat bog must be great fun, because the boys, upon finding the head, go,
"What's this? A football? Nah, that's a dinosaur egg, that is."
Forensics identifies the head as belonging to a European woman between 30 and 50 years old. Police think the extremely well-preserved head belongs to Malika Reyn-Bardt, who disappeared in 1960. While in prison on another charge, her husband, Peter Reyn-Bardt, boasts that he killed his wife and buried her out back in the garden, which is right on the edge of the mossland where the Lindau Bog happens to be. Cops dig up the garden, but no Malika can be found in there. When the police confront the imprisoned Reyn-Bardt and tell him that they found a woman's head in the bog and show him photographs, Reyn-Bardt confesses to her killing, all in great detail. Here's the interesting part. Turns out the head isn't Malika at all, off by another 2,000 years or so. Radiocarbon-dated Lindau woman is said to have dropped into the bog around 210 AD. Burners on Reyn-Bardt. He goes to trial and is convicted of first degree, damned by evidence of his confession. Born this day in 1843, Robert Todd Lincoln, firstborn son of the 16th President of the United States, Abraham Lincoln. Robert Todd, the 35th United States Secretary of War. He dies in 1926, alone among President Lincoln's sons to survive into the 20th century. In 1922, he's president in Washington, D.C. at the dedication of the Lincoln Memorial, appearing on the podium with then-sitting President Warren G. Harding and Chief Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court, former President William Howard Taft. Remarkably, despite Robert Todd Lincoln's appearance that day, May 30, 1922, neither of the two American presidents present was shot or killed. Robert Todd has the distinction of presence at the scene of 3 presidential assassinations, although he was in the White House when his father was shot, April 15, 1865, in Ford's Theater, attending the performance of a popular stage play, Our American Cousin, featuring the comedy stylings of the British actress and theatrical manager Laura Keane. News was quickly brought to Robert Todd, and he attended to his father upon his deathbed at Peterson House across the street from the theater. 16 years later, on July 2, 1881, Robert Todd Lincoln, serving as Secretary of War in the cabinet of the 20th President, James A. Garfield, was present at the 6th Street train station in Washington to see the President and his wife off for a long 4th of July seaside weekend when the President shot by a disgruntled and clearly unhappy office seeker. You see how history might have been completely changed if only the Republicans had just been able to find some kind of job for that guy. Anything, food service, retail. Anyway, Garfield lingers through the summer and dies despite strenuous medical intervention, including a rail trip to the Jersey Shore, thought in those days to be restorative. Garfield passes September 19, 1881 from infection. Garfield's last words are, "My work is done." That's for sure. The third president, Robert Todd Jinks, was William McKinley, who invited him to join him in Buffalo at the Pan American Exposition, where McKinley was shot and mortally wounded by Leon, what's his name, the poor schmo whose name most Americans can't pronounce, can't remember, would just as soon forget. on September 6, 1901. At least Leon had a good reason. He was an anarchist, didn't believe in governments or the validity of the hierarchy of power. What he apparently did believe in was cold-blooded murder, for which he was tried, convicted, and executed at Auburn Prison in Auburn, New York, by 3 1,800-volt jolts in the electric chair, Old Sparky, 45 days after shooting McKinley. Justice was swift in those days. Robert Todd develops a mordant sense of humor about these coincidences when, after the third one, he's invited to some White House function. He backs out saying, "No, I'm not going, and they better not ask me because there's a certain fatality about presidential functions when I'm present." American author Berrien Berends writes, with all of its bad influences, television programming is not to be feared. It can be a fairly safe laboratory for confronting, seeing through, and thus being immunized against unhealthy values so as to be in the world but not of it. From Rutland, Vermont, this is Richard Alcott speaking.